Hey, this is Chris, and the 8th anniversary of my tiny house occupancy has arrived. And so in 2013, I built a 252 square foot code legal tiny house on 9 acres in Massachusetts. Around that time, Deke Diedrichson came around and he did a video of it. I'll actually post a link to it in the show notes so you can see what it looked like 8 years ago. Looks a lot different now. So many people have seen, these small, tiny homes on trailers, and they say, you couldn't possibly live in that for long periods of time. You're going to get sick of it. You're going to have to move, and you're just going to waste your money. And I'm here to tell you that that's really not true. I've been living in this house for 8 years now. I'm very happy here. I have no plans to move anytime soon. The purpose of this video really is just to show you, 8 years after I moved in, some of the modifications that I've made to the house to help make it more comfortable and easier to live in. So as you follow the drone flying through my house, there's 5 things you're probably going to notice. First, I've connected the place to the power grid. I've added some railings to my loft. The ladder that used to go up to the loft has been replaced with this really unique space-saving set of stairs that I'll go into detail in a little bit. And I've got a new built-in butcher block desk. So when I first built the place, it was originally wired for 12 volts DC. I used materials that would make it easy to convert it over later on to standard 120 volt AC like most normal homes have. And it was all inspected by an electrical inspector and everything like that. And so all I really had to do is change the outlets and the switches and remove the batteries. And then I just dug this long 172-foot trench out to the road. And in the trench was this big piece of conduit with a 200 amp cable. I had the electrician use a box on the house that would allow me to connect 100 amps of power to the house and then have an option of another 100 amps out for my workshop. I actually don't use my wood stove very much anymore. I actually can heat the place with a 700 watt electric heater, which is really convenient. And that's really only possible because I did the super insulation package on the house. The walls are all 14 inches thick and it holds the heat or the cold really, really well. And so I'd say going on the grid has actually been a really good upgrade for the house. So perhaps I was a little short-sighted when I designed the house. I did not plan a wall specifically for a really large TV. As at the time, TVs really weren't as big as they are now. But I had to find some place to put it, and so as a compromise, I installed it in front of a window, which seems like really not such a good idea. But fortunately, since the house has a 14-inch thick walls, the windowsills are really large. And in this case, it allows me to put, an Xbox or DVD players, and I can also tuck all the cables back up in the window space. All right, so let's talk about some modifications to the loft. This loft is non-habitable space because the ceiling height is less than 7 feet. All right, so now let's talk about the stairs that are going up into the loft area. This is by far the best modification I've made to the place in the entire 8 years. It's maybe just after power, just before power, but it's a really important modification. The main part of the stairs, so that the main staircase itself is actually very normal. The angle is very normal. It's very much just like a staircase in any other house. And then you'll see off to the side there's this little tiny booster staircase. It basically gives you 2 steps up to the landing of the main staircase. The booster is really space-saving, small. It's only a 12 by 18-inch footprint on the floor. And then let's talk about my desk. The desk is made up from a 48-inch wide butcher block countertop section that they sell at Lowe's. It actually comes with a fold-up set of brackets under it, the ones that come from Lowe's. I didn't use those. I just sort of built it in permanently. So some people ask advice. Since I've lived in a tiny house for so long, you have any advice for me on building one? My advice would be you want to be building a small house, not a tiny house. And that means that the scale of your house should be just like a normal house. 8-foot ceilings or 7-foot something ceilings. Like in my case, I have a 14-foot tall cathedral ceiling in the living room. When you're sitting in the living room watching TV, it doesn't feel like you're in a tiny house. It feels like you're just in any old house. So that's the scale you want to build at. You don't want to feel cramped because I think it just, that to me at least it would be draining if I had to live in a house that felt cramped. And I actually I lived in a 66 square foot tiny house for a long time, and the feeling is much different when you build a house to normal scale rather than tiny house scale. And I would also say I'm not a big fan of homes on trailers. You know what? Buy a piece of land, build it on a slab, or build it on a foundation or a normal cellar hole if you want. But I would definitely recommend doing a fixed house rather than a house on a trailer. So I'd say that's the tour of my tiny house that I've spent the last 8 years in. If you have any questions or comments, put them in the comment section below. I'll try and answer them for you. Thanks for watching.